Hello, dear traveler. You've arrived at a gentle edge of the night, where thoughts loosen like silk ribbons, and the body remembers how to rest. Before the story settles around you, let's make an easy space for calm. Inhale through your nose for a soft count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold just lightly, like cupping warm tea. Exhale through your mouth for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, slow and kind. If any part of you feels busy or tight, imagine the breath stroking it smooth, quieting it with a hush. At the town's edge, there is a station almost no maps remember. It rests behind hawthorn hedges and an iron gate with a sleepy curve to it, as if the gate itself is yawning. Tonight, the clock in the square has just touched midnight. Somewhere nearby, a kettle is settling back on its trivet, little metal feet against wood. A thin rain whispers on the cobblestones, nothing urgent, just that old patient sound rain makes when it knows it has all night. The station is lit by 3 amber lamps and the pale wash of the moon. The benches are polished smooth by years of waiting, though almost no one waits here anymore. On the far wall, a chalkboard lists no towns, no platforms, only a single line written in a careful hand. The midnight train. Departures now. Arrivals remembered. Beneath it, a brass bell with a velvet rope sits very still, as if it might ring, but only if asked kindly. They come one by one, like thoughts that finally choose to return. Mara arrives first, shrugging out of a rain-specked coat. She is a musician who misplaced a melody long ago, the kind that once traveled with her through kitchens and stairwells, a melody that used to hum in the back pocket of her jeans. She has looked for it everywhere except here. Then Thomas appears, quiet at the edges, an archivist with careful hands and a vivid memory of a photograph he can no longer find. In it, someone he loved was laughing, and the light from a window made a bright coin on their cheek. The missing image has tugged at him for years like a sleeve. And there is Elena, who is used to guiding others, coaxing gardens into bloom, assembling the small comforts that keep a home kind. She has a dream she once carried, not of achievement or applause, but of a cabin by a lake, where the mornings smelled of pine, where a table waited for a book. a bowl of blueberries. Life became filled with other good things, yes, but the cabin dream drifted like a leaf on a wide current, always just out of reach. They are not alone. The station keeper, Mr. Lark, moves through the lamplight in a coat that looks like it might once have been a night sky itself, dark with a scatter of faint silver thread. His voice is the sort that never raises itself, and yet somehow it fills the space. "Welcome," he says, and the word seems to launder the air between them, softening it, warming it a touch. If you are here, it's because something of yours took the last train long ago. Tonight it returns. You are safe. You are on time. The rails tremble. Not a thunder, not a surge, just a gentle humming, the kind a cat might make when it discovers the exact center of a sunlit floor. The fog that lay idle at the edges of the platform pulls itself into neat folds. And from it, like a thought becoming clear, the train arrives. It is not shiny nor grand, but it is beautiful. Windows glowing with a late supper light. Brass fittings kept with real affection. Paint the color of deep ocean. On the front, a small plaque reads simply, "Midnight." The engine exhales a ribbon of vapor that smells faintly of cedar and citrus peel. The sound it makes is a low, reassuring shh, as if it knows the way and has no reason to hurry. Inside, the carriages are soft with velvet seats and long, calm aisles. Lamps wear little pleated shades. The rugs are thick, patterned with fern fronds and tiny stars. There is a kindly sway underfoot, no jolt at all, just a welcoming cradle. Somewhere a samovar hums quietly, and the faintest note of vanilla drifts through like a remembered dessert. "Tickets, please," Mr. Lark murmurs, offering each traveler a small rectangle of card, the color of pressed flowers. No dates, no seat numbers, only a word in handwritten ink: "Return." Mara fingers the ticket and hears, not quite yet, but almost, the ghost of a tune. Thomas feels a brightness gather behind his right eye, where the lost photograph used to flicker. Elena breathes, and the scent of pine leans closer, as if a door in the night has shifted open by a finger's width. "You won't be going to places," Mr. Lark says, folding their tickets with a practiced kindness and tucking them into the silver clip at his breast pocket. The tracks are patient. They run inward, into what you set down without knowing you had done so. If you are willing, the train will take you to it. It will be gentle. It will be clear. The bell at the front of the car sounds once like a soft idea made of brass. The doors sigh shut, hush, and the carriage settles into its rhythm. There is no lurch, no push, only that steady, even persuasion as the train moves forward, answering rails with a quiet, contented hush-hush that could just as easily be called kindness. As the landscape beyond the window begins to slide, a ribbon of hedges, a seam of water, fields stitched in the dark. Mara rests her cheek against the cool glass. Thomas counts the spaces between the passing fence posts and notices his shoulders unclench. Elena curls her hands around a cup the steward has placed before her. "Lemon? Honey?" the steward asks, and it is the sort of voice that seems to know the correct answer without insisting. A slice of lemon brightens the steam. The honey moves like the sun through the spoon. The narrator, the quiet, caring presence that watches over them, and, in a small way, over you, offers one more soft shape for your breathing. In for 4, like stepping onto the carriage. Hold for 2, like finding your seat. Out for 6, like the track smoothing under you as the wheels sing. If you like, imagine that with each exhale, the train collects a little of the day's weight from your shoulders, from your chest, and stores it in a wicker basket by the door, to be returned to the world later, gentled by the ride. Outside, the rain thins and stops. The moon reclines on a fold of cloud. The lamps inside the compartment seem to warm their glow by a notch. Mara, Thomas, and Elena turn their faces toward that warmth, unhurried. Each has brought along a small object. Mara, a pencil worn down to its kind little stub. Thomas, a strip of film in a paper sleeve. Elena, a smooth stone with a pale ring through its center, picked up on a holiday she half remembers. They will be guides, perhaps, or anchors. Some journeys require maps. This one prefers talismans. You may feel the moments arriving before you see them. They tend to travel by scent or by a texture in the air. If something feels familiar and you cannot name it, do not chase it. Let it come to you, the way a shy cat decides in its own time to sit exactly where you are. The train takes a gentle curve, and the windows gather a few soft stars against their glass. The rhythm deepens into a lullaby of even syllables. Hush, hush, hush. And somewhere up ahead, just out of sight, the first door is waiting. A door that leads not to a town, but to a room kept in the heart, left tidy and quiet, as if the occupant only stepped out for a moment and will be back any second. For now it is enough that they have found their seats. It is enough that the train knows the way. Take another slow breath in and out. Good. The journey is underway. The car settles into a steady cradle, the way a lake holds a small boat and lets it drift just enough to say, "You're safe." Lamps hum like bees somewhere very far away. The floor makes that gentle, trustworthy creak that old wood has when it remembers the shape of every foot that ever crossed it. "You'll notice doors," Mr. Lark says, gliding a hand along the corridor rail. "When a door feels like it has been waiting for you, that is yours." He smiles, the kind of smile that never asks for anything in return. There is no rush. At the end of the first carriage, a narrow, frosted window clears itself as if a fingertip were drawing circles in steam. Behind the glass waits a small kitchen with thyme sprigs in a jar, an enamel teapot, and a square of afternoon sun lying on the floor. Mara pauses, a palm over her ticket. The air carries a breath of orange peel and something else, warm bread perhaps, and the dust of a music book that lived on a piano for years. She doesn't push the door. It opens to her, polite as a well-brought-up cat. Inside, chairs tuck themselves closer to the table as if to make room. The little radio on the counter clicks, then sighs into silence, as if it has chosen not to speak. Mara lays her pencil on the table and feels its small weight, like a heartbeat in wood. Somewhere, she can't say from where, a note rises, almost shy. It's the softest thread, silver and unassuming. She holds still. Shh, the room seems to say, let it find you. So she breathes. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6, like a tide polishing glass. The note is joined by another, and then a third, not a melody yet, but a path, stepping stones in clear water. She closes her eyes and feels where the second stone should go if she wants to cross without getting wet. When she hums, the hum is faint, like a against the rim of a teacup. The tune does not arrive all at once. It returns in small, perfect pieces, the way a flock returns, one bird, then two, then a patient gathering of wings. By the time she opens her eyes, the sun square on the floor has moved just a little, and her pencil has found the paper without her looking. She writes on the back of an old recipe card, apricot tart, extra almond, the notes settling into place as if they had been waiting for this exact handwriting. There is no applause, only the easy knowledge that her pocket is full again, that walking down a stairwell tomorrow, she will hear the melody slip beside her like a friend who knows the shortcut. Mara thanks the room, which is the sort of room that accepts thanks modestly and offers a little time for the road. When she steps back into the corridor, her shoulders are lower. The train answers with a hushed, contented hush-hush, as if it, too, approves. Thomas stands by his own door, a door paneled in dark walnut, the grain like water frozen mid-sway. The paper sleeve in his hand warms to his skin. He has searched for that photograph in drawers and boxes, in the long, thin hours of night. He has held himself absolutely still, the way you do when you hope a memory will not spook you. Now the door swings open on a room that looks like an archive of light. Shelves where labels written in a fountain pen. The air smells of cotton gloves and a faint lemon oil used for wood long before he was born. A window is open just enough to let in a square of ordinary sky. He does not reach for the nearest box. Instead, he sits at the long table and rests his palms on its smooth surface. The train rocks him very slightly, and somewhere in the distance a bell notes the hour with a single velveted tone. The sleeve in his hand reminds him of the angle of a shoulder, of laughter that arrived like a bright gust and left the room lighter than before. He waits, and the waiting itself becomes an act of care. The photograph does not appear on paper. It lifts instead inside him, not a still frame, but a brief, complete moment. Her head tipping back, a curl that will not stay behind her ear, the coin of light on the cheek, like a blessing that can't be spent. He realizes with a small, grateful ache that what he could not find was never lost. It had simply been pressed between the pages of his days, safe as a leaf saved in a book. He takes a soft breath in. The room seems to nod. He slips the empty sleeve into his pocket, not as a failure, but as a promise. The body remembers, even when the hands cannot. When he steps back out, he does not count the fence posts anymore. He looks up and notes how the lamps keep their halos steady and kind. Elena's door is carved with a ring that matches the pale circle through her stone. She touches the ring with one fingertip and feels at once cool morning air. The door opens to a porch facing a small lake, the water resting like silk. A pine leans companionably toward the roofline. The cabin is simple, but not austere. A stove that still carries the day's warmth. A shelf of books with their spines softened by use. A woven throw asleep on the arm of a chair. Somewhere a kettle breathes, unhurried. Not rain, she realizes after a moment, just the whisper of needles against one another, as the wind writes a quiet letter through the trees. She does not need to own this place to belong to it. The boards recognize her steps. The table offers the exact right chair. On it lies a blank page and a pencil sharpened to a patient point. She writes a note in a hand she rarely uses, for herself, from herself, signed with today's date. It says only, "You may come here." You do not have to prove anything to sit by the window and listen to the loon call once at dusk. You do not have to finish the book. You do not have to be good. Be here. Be here. Be here. The stone in her palm warms as if it has remembered the sun. When she stands and opens the door again, the porch greets her with the color of early blueberries. She breathes in the clean, resin-swept air, and then she breathes out such a slow breath that the world seems to lower its voice to match. On the lake, a small ripple passes without purpose, simply because a ripple sometimes likes to travel. Back in the corridor, Mr. Lark tips his head, not taking credit for any of it. "You see," he says mildly, as if he were observing the weather, "not destinations, invitations." The steward appears with cups that do not slosh despite the train's motion. Chamomile, linden, a slice of apple. The steam rises in soft ribbons. The lids make a gentle ch as they settle. The travelers cradle warmth and watch their reflections float in the window glass, then mingle with the dark beyond, until it is impossible to tell where the carriage ends and the night begins. For you, too, the carriage is kind. Let your breath choose an easy rhythm that suits the corners of your mouth, the slope of your chest. Imagine that with every exhale, a little drawer inside the train clicks shut, containing one more small rattle of worry. Click, click, click. None of the drawers lock. They simply rest, to be opened only if needed, later in daylight. For now the rails are smooth, the lamps steady, the company gentle. Mara hums just above a whisper. Thomas turns the empty sleeve into a tiny paper boat and lets it sail the smooth grain of the table. Elena rolls the stone across her palm and listens to the pine writing its letter out there, line by line. The train curves, and along the curve waits one last door for the night. A door not belonging to any single traveler, but to the carriage itself. It leads to a car made entirely of quiet, a place where thoughts lie down like cats and do their kneading, soft, 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 until everything in them has settled. The bell sounds once, a hush of brass. The steward dims the lamps by a fraction, a kindness toward eyelids. Outside, the fields move past like pages turned very slowly. The midnight train continues, not toward any station, but deeper into the softness that comes when something once missing returns and chooses to stay. The quiet carriage opens like dusk itself. Soft edges, gentle colors, everything toned down to the kind of hush a library has after closing. Lamps wear deeper shades. The floor has the silky give of an old rug, and at each seat a small woven blanket waits, folded like a calm thought. Mr. Lark stands at the threshold, one hand resting on the brass rail. This is where the night decides to hold you, he murmurs, voice warm as a hand around a cup. No timetables here, only rest. Mara, Thomas, and Elena step in without hurry. They are lighter now, not because the world has changed, but because something inside them has put its heavy book back on the shelf. Mara slips her pencil into that safe back pocket. Thomas touches the empty sleeve and knows it is full in the way that matters. Elena sets the ringed stone on the armrest and feels it hum with lake light. Above them, the train keeps its steady lull. Hush, hush, hush. The syllables of a cradle song that never asks for words. The steward dims the lamps one whisper more and sets a tray near the aisle. Chamomile and linden, a little dish of apple slices brushed with lemon. No clatter, no fuss. Just the faintest ribbon of steam, the sort that makes shoulders instinctively lower. Beyond the windows, the fields loosen into a blur of velvet. Somewhere, far back in the train, a door closes like a page turning, soft, sure, final. Before the blankets are drawn, the narrator, this caring presence that watches over them and, if you like, over you, invites a last easy breath. In through the nose for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold as if balancing a feather for 2. Out through the mouth for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Again, but let the exhale lengthen to 7, and then to 8 if it feels kind. No pushing, no proving, just longer out than in, the way waves slide down the sand with a sigh after a gentle reach. The bodies in the carriage learn the lesson quickly. Faces soften. The small muscles around the eyes let go. The jaw untangles. The tongue rests easily in the cradle of the mouth. Shoulders lower, as if the train had loosened their knots with warm, patient hands. Arms grow pleasantly heavy. Hands, those faithful messengers, set down their invisible letters and curl without worry. Chest rises and falls like a curtain at an open window. The belly remembers it can be soft. Hips settle. Thighs sink into the cushion. Calves lengthen. Feet spread. Toes loosen, as if remembering the exact shape of the rug at home. If thoughts drift in, lists, corners, the echo of a conversation, the train makes room for them the way a pond accepts a leaf, without resistance. Each idea arrives, greets the water, and then, by its own nature, floats out toward the dim banks. You do not need to push them away. Gravity and kindness will do the work. Shh, the rails sing. Shh, says the window. Shh, says the cup cooling on the tray. Mr. Lark moves down the aisle, not to check, but to bless. He does not touch shoulders or foreheads. He simply passes, and a faint scent of cedar and citrus peel trails after him, the way warm wood carries a memory of sun. He pauses by each traveler. For Mara, he places a narrow notebook in the seat pocket, pages ruled in music staff, space enough for the tune to keep returning in small, perfect flocks. For Thomas, a square envelope of thick paper. Inside, not a photograph, but a sheet of vellum that catches light just so, reminding the eyes how to keep what matters. For Elena, a postcard of a lake, with a margin wide enough to write in, stamped but unaddressed, ready to be sent to any morning she chooses. Not destinations, he had said earlier. Invitations. Now he adds, almost to himself, and permissions. He tips his hat, if it is a hat, and becomes the same color as the dim between the lamps. Outside, the night changes texture. Fields give way to a corridor of trees, branches weaving a sheltering tunnel. The wheels slow their song a little, not a break, not a stop, more like a rocking chair easing its sway as the sitter drifts. The midnight train glides along a siding of cloud, a soft curved place the map forgot, built exactly for sleeping in. Somewhere overhead, a rain begins the faintest conversation with the roof. Tick, hush, tick, so quiet it might be imagination. Mara's breathing slips into the measure of the melody she found, the notes now settling like small birds along a branch. Thomas's lips ease into the faintest smile, the kind that happens when a picture becomes a place you can visit without effort. Elena tilts her head as if to listen to pine needles writing, line after line after line, though she is already halfway into the gentle dark where the words unfold without her having to read. The car will tuck the car with one more layer of quiet, an invisible blanket that smells faintly of time and linen dried in lake wind. The journey will continue, but it will continue inside the dream now, where trains know short bridges and long meadows, and the exact route to mornings that wake softly. If any stir of wakefulness comes later, it will meet only the hush of the rails and the old rug's tender give, and it will sink again like a pebble finding the pocket of a stream and settling there, perfectly placed. You may let go completely. The midnight train will keep the watch. Your ticket says return, and return you shall, to shores of sleep, to rooms where care has already set out a chair by the window, to a night that keeps your breath and gives it back, slower, sweeter, lighter. Good night.